Today, I am joined by Gareth Buchan of Coach Accounts. Gareth actually used to be a member of Physique Collective, a director alongside myself, until he went off and set up Coach Accounts. But what is a loss for me personally and Physique Collective is a massive win for everyone else from the financial point of view. In this episode, you're going to learn about what the best coaches do to manage their finances, the biggest pitfalls that he sees people make, and how you can rectify that, and how to set yourself up for success financially as a coach, and what are the best things that you can do moving forward for financial freedom. It's a great episode. Really hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Gareth, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, Matt, mate. What about yourself? I am living the dream, quiet up in Scotland.
You don't sound like it when you say it like that.
Living the not really on social media as much anymore. So it's great living a quiet life up here.
I'm
It's been a
jealous.
massive change in the last year, so it's been a bit of different year.
Yeah, well, like I said, the reason I wanted to get you on, aside from being one of my best mates, and it's an excuse for us to have a chat, is you've obviously had a big transition in the last, 18 months, going from online full-time as a coach to online full-time as Coach Accounts. So you've gone away from the online coaching people directly into managing their money. And I would imagine, and having been a bit of a mole with money previously, that us online coaches aren't particularly great. But I was going to say, how have you found the move before we go into talking about the finances?
It's been a bit of a transition. It was good. I mean, ultimately, if anyone doesn't know, obviously, I was an online coach for years, part of the Physique Collective, and then about 18 months ago, I made me and my business partner Jamie, who's one of my close mates from school, who's been a practicing accountant for 10 years, came together and kind of had this business idea to create an accountancy firm specifically for the fitness industry for reasons you've kind of highlighted there. And for me, I'll be completely selfish in the way I talk about things. That I'm a long-term thinker. Like, I'm always thinking about how's the next 5 years look, the next 10 years look, the next 15 years look, the next 20 years look, 20 years look. I'm like that. And for myself, I was just kind of over the last kind of 2 years, I've been thinking to myself, right, coaching is great, it's fantastic, but can I see myself doing check-ins at 40? Can I see myself doing this at etc.? And it's not to say there's nothing wrong with that, but for myself, I was like, right, I personally, for the way my brain works, I needed to get into the business of working in necessities and not luxuries. And what I mean by that is basically online coaching. To me, I see it as when you offer a luxury service, whereas accountancy would call more of a necessity. It's required. Most people, not everybody needs it, but a lot of people require it. For myself and my own well-being and thinking about what we're going to do at 40 and 50, etc., it was kind of like I need to transition myself into owning a business so that what can I be doing when I'm 40? What can I be doing when I'm 50, etc.? And I can see myself running and owning an accountancy firm at that age. And for me, the transition was actually really smooth. Obviously, it comes with its stresses. Totally different business, completely different model. We have now got regulation. I've got regulations we need to abide by, etc. It's not like the Wild West, the online coaching where you can do anything you want. It's obviously not like that, but it's been good. Like, I've really enjoyed the process, and now I'm at this stage now where it's like I couldn't imagine doing anything different. Like, this is like, it's given me a lot less stress. Like, I speak to my wife. We spoke about this the last 6 months. Like, I'm definitely a lot less stressed now because I'm building a business how I would say properly now compared to what I was doing before. So we've got a team, we've got members of staff in here, we've got an office, we all work together. It's a much better environment here. Like, weekends, I completely switch off Saturday and Sunday now. Like, I don't even look at my phone Saturday and Sunday unless it's an emergency now. So it's like I got myself in a really good routine there, and that was kind of what I was looking for. Is to how can I, like, that was the goal when we started this, is to try and not stress about work as much. I'm not really someone that's really too bothered about money. Like, money's great, but I also wanted that to have that kind of like lifestyle where I could just switch off for a weekend. I could take a week off, and that was how we've kind of built this business.
Well, you're a family man as well, or soon to be a bigger family.
Soon to be. The wife is pregnant in June, so going to be a dad, so that'll be fun.
And I think balancing that around things probably works a lot better for you.
Oh, dramatically. It's just like now we've got Lauren and Logan, and obviously Jamie, but Lauren and Logan who work with us full time, and they're lifesavers in that sense, in terms of like, I can take a week off and the business runs. New clients come in, clients
Mm.
are serviced, accounts are managed, clients are done, everything's done, social media's posted. Because it's no Gareth accounts and it's coach accounts, it's great in
Mm.
that sense that I can just take that time off now. And that was one of the main reasons why we did this. I wanted to get that type of model in place for myself. And it does allow me, like I said, when baby is born, to then take some time off, etc. Obviously comes with its own stresses of no longer I'm no longer just the captain of the ship anymore. The good thing about coaching is you pick
Mm.
your hours, you do what you want. You want to go away to Marbella for a week and work, you can do that. Technically I could, but I can't. We've got a team here,
Yeah.
we've got an office here. Like I can't just say I'm not working on a Wednesday anymore. Like I need to, like, we've got a structure here. I'm responsible for people and stuff now. So there's a bit more structure in that sense, but I like it. I prefer it that way, I think.
And you built, I mean, I've got to say, you built a hell of a business. And one thing I'm always conscious about when I big up coach accounts is, look, you're one of my mates. People go, oh yeah, it's just because you're friends with Gareth, and I'm like, no, no. They are by flat out, like, by far the best accountancy company I've ever used, by far. And that to me is like, you built something really amazing, and you can see that from like all the people that have gone across. Most of the coaches that I know work with you.
Mhm.
They've kind of, I mean, you can give me a kickback for that, because I definitely helped with that one. But there's a lot of coaches who've gone over there for good reason, because I've never felt personally as secure with my finances and in control. Previously, my experience always were kind of left in the dark a bit. And going back to my earlier point, coaches for the most part we're stupid with money. We are terrible with money for the most part. So you definitely helped me on that front. You helped me get more clarity on it. So you built a really cool business, mate, I've got to
Mhm.
say. Um,
It's good. I would say, like, we do get a lot of praise, and I'm also going to bring us up and say we're very, very good. The reason we've kind of took off so well is, say we found a gap in the accountancy market is we've really took advantage of the accountancy world being so stuck in the dark ages and offering, like I said, I always look at level of customer service, providing the best customer
mm,
service possible. End of the day, it's great. End of the day, as accountants, save money, save tax, brilliant, all that things. But in the day of 2024, customer service matters. You know what I mean? As an online coach, you want replies now. You want instant access. You would like to know everything about it. It's not just the case that you would like to speak to your accountant once a year. And when we were building this business, we had the business model of, right, cool, let's look at the level of customer service that an online coach provides, because I firmly believe that online coaches provide one of the best customer services you'll ever see from any type of business.
mm,
Because it's not often you get instant access to someone on WhatsApp. You'll get a reply at the weekend. You'll get check-ins all the time. Like, you get really, really good level of customer service. And I was like, right, cool. Well, the accountancy world doesn't do that at the minute. So can we apply that to accountancy?
mm,
And obviously we've then been able to create a model around that. And obviously it's took off very well because coaches respond to it well, because ultimately all we're doing is providing the same level of customer service that they provide to their clients. And then their old accountants would never provide that, or if they did, they would charge an absolute arm and a leg for it. And it also helps that we can relate to their business. So it's been good in that sense that we've been able to manage that. And your point there about obviously coaches handling being terrible with money, I'll push back on it slightly. I mean, there is a theory, there's a lot of coaches that aren't great with money, but I don't think it's that coaches aren't great with money. I think it's that they're not trained to deal with that level of income. And what I mean by that is, like, handling income is a skill. And a lot of online coaches have come from lower paid jobs, being a PT in the gym floor, working in a gym, maybe not earning a lot of money, to now earning astronomical amounts of money. And you put anyone in that situation and they'll have no idea how to handle it. The
mm.
difference between able to handle 25 grand a year to 100 grand a year, it's a skill. And in the usual workplace, so like for your old job, for example, before you were a coach, you worked your way up the ladder. So like you went from 30 grand a year to 40 to 50 to 60 to 70. By the time you got to 100 grand a year, you're managing it because you've done it over a period of time,
Mm.
and you can be sensible with it. Whereas it's like going from 0 to 100. Like, it's, you put someone in that situation, straight away they're like booking fancy holidays, booking this, and then obviously with self-employment, you don't pay tax instantly.
Yeah.
So people forget about that. So I wouldn't say it's a terrible with money. There is people that are terrible with money. I think it's more about just the fact is no one is really built to handle, to go from earning X amount to earning ridiculous amounts of money. You see it all the time with, like, in the music industry, etc., like rappers, etc., who've went from, especially in America, individuals that have come from essentially the ghettos, not earning any money, to now having X amount, and they've got $1 million gold chains and ridiculous Lamborghinis and Bugattis, etc. And it's because it's like they've never had that before, and now they get it. They just whoosh. It's a massive change, and you usually find after a couple of years, these celebrities and individuals, you see them have calmed down a bit and they're a bit better with it. It's how it goes, and that's obviously we're there to help bridge that gap and help ensure that they don't go mad and ensure that they do manage their money properly. And that's where we come in there. Hello, I can hear you. Yet.
Right, there we go, we're back. So I'll edit that bit out. One thing I found is previous accountants I dealt with would not from trying to like catch you out or anything, but maybe just leave you in the dark, where it seems accountancy had this kind of like mystique about it. Like, let me deal with the money, like smoke and mirrors a little bit. And I find what you guys have done has made it very transparent. It's easy to stay on top of your finances.
People need to remember as well, most accountants will deal with big businesses with multiple members of staff as well. So this is where, like, I love to shit in the accountancy world, because it's essentially because we've obviously been able to do so well at it, but I also need to reflect on like why. It's not that accountants are doing anything wrong, it's that the vast majority of accountants will deal with bigger businesses. And when it comes to like, I never got any, they'll genuinely be dealing with a company that's got multiple departments, and they'll deal with a business got a HR department, got a payroll. It's got these own departments where they just know that they expect that business to be able to handle all the stuff, and they just deal with the tax affairs. And obviously when and problem is that online coaches, this is not a problem, it's a really good thing. Online coaches have businesses that make just as much money as these other businesses, but it's only it's a one-man band, it's one person in it. And then accountants are just they expect that to be something that they're aware of, whereas obviously we understand it a bit more. Like we're dealing with like one-man bands here to earn a ridiculous amount of money. So it's a lot of it's that, like, accountants are genuinely used to dealing with a shop that's maybe got someone that deals with this, etc. So they just know they've got their part. Whereas obviously coaches maybe not be up to scratch on understanding what they should and shouldn't be doing, and ultimately that's why they feel like they've never known the great service. So it is just a accountancy world is stuck in the dark ages, and I've no idea if it will come out of that, but ultimately it's one of these things that is just how it's always been done. It's like, why does it take 5 days to reply to an email? The answer is that's how it's always been done. And I don't know if that'll ever change. Now it works in our favour, obviously, because we don't do that and we offer something completely different. So I hope it doesn't change, but obviously
if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Works great for you.
It's just kind of like how it is. Like, when everyone always talks about old accountancy firms to me, I'm like, that's just how it is. It's just how it's always been.
For sure. I mean, given we're sort of talking about online coaches and stuff, I wrote down a couple of questions here. One of the questions I said was, what do you see coaches doing wrong? Like, what are the biggest mistakes coaches are doing financially, which you see like on a day-to-day basis?
So the number one thing I see, which is the biggest problem, is everyone thinking that every penny they make is their money. What I mean by that is, I make £5,000 a month for coaching. Right, cool. So you got business expenses, you've got tax on top of that. You don't earn £5,000 a month personally from that. And what a lot I've seen it so much is somebody will come to us after 9 months of coaching and be like, cool, how much tax have you got saved? None. Cool, right? So you made X amount, your tax obligation is going to be this. Why have you not saved? And like, oh, I didn't know, etc., etc. And I think the worst, what I see is people will see their hyperinflated earnings and forget to understand that that's not all theirs. That's not all theirs. It's no saving for tax, no being proactive for saving for tax is probably the biggest one I get. And a lot of coaches will, and everyone's done it. It's like, oh, it's because tax is so delayed. Like when you set up a company, for example, technically you won't pay your first lot of taxes until 18 months down the line. So you've got such a long period of time. And you know what it's like, coaches have got to worry about that then, or worry about that then, or worry about that then. And then that 18 months creeps up in them and they go, I've not got the money for that. So it's that I'll worry about that later, and it's like, no, actually worry about it now. Let's start to factor that in. Let's start to ensure you've got that saved. And that's really the first things we always do in our calls with clients is like, right, this is your tax position this minute. Save it, top up your savings pot to this, make sure it's there. Because people just get caught out all the time. And that's like, it's not just coaching, it's all industries, but it's just the way the tax system works, because it's such a delayed system. Like, you won't pay it until X date. So easy just to go worry about that then. So that's the biggest one I see is That
I get that as well, because previously when I was in a business, that's been all your tax has been done for you. You get your PAYE, and that money I get paid every month, that's mine. So I can see like the transition for me wasn't that straightforward. And
Mhm.
it's only when we sort of sat down, we're like, right, Matt, you need to allocate this much. I'm always belt and braces, so I try and allocate more than I need to. But I've definitely been caught short before. And it's
yeah,
one
and
of
the
those things
biggest
where,
biggest personal one I see is people. So obviously tax savings kind of a business one, but the personal one is people upgrading their life quality of life too quickly. And what I mean by this is I see this is every coach is guilty of this, by the way. Everyone, I was guilty of this back in the
oh
day.
yeah,
Everyone
same.
is guilty of this. And like we try to obviously fix it at source, but getting very, very like upgrading your quality of life as soon as your business starts to do well. So what I mean by that is it coach goes from making, I don't know, 30 grand a year or 3 grand a month or something like that, to then February and March having £8,000 months and £8,000 February and £8,000 March. Straight away, it's the new car that comes in, it's the fancy holiday they've booked, it's this they've done, it's a staff member they've hired. They then go and spend all this money and upgrade their quality of life. And what I mean by that is, like I said, they've now got a massive car payment, they've now got a mortgage, massive rent payment, they've now got massive payments on a holiday. They're like, you're doing all this, like actually don't upgrade the quality of your life until you've got the evidence to show that you can actually do that. So that's why like we sit there and we like, see it so often that happens. But what we'll do is once we start to see a client do really well, really well, we'll sit down and be like, look, let's say they need £2,000 a month to live and pay their bills. I'm like, I don't care if you do make £20,000 next month. You're living off two, live off two, survive off two. See how it goes for 6 months, right? After, because fitness energy is so seasonal, earn a lot of money for 6 months, keep your quality of life the exact same. After 6 months, if the business is still growing and trending, great. You've got a massive amount of savings cash there. So you've got so much money sitting there. You can go and do what you want with it. But secondly, once you've got evidence in the data there, then you can start to upgrade your quality of life. But don't just upgrade your quality of life on the back of a couple of months doing well, because that see it so much. And then they have a drop off and they're like, I've got this massive car payment I can't afford anymore. I've got this. I kind of like, you should never have done it in the first place. I'm like, best thing you will ever do in business is have a massive kind of safety net sitting there that gives you kind of that financial peace of mind. So for me, it's like people upgrading their quality of life too quick is the biggest kind of flaw that I see personally for happen. And what I will say is that's everybody. Literally everybody does it.
Do you think
There is a
it's
couple outliers, but everybody does.
Do you think it's because as coaches, everyone's thinking about month to month, so they see themselves have one good month, then they're like, that means I'm having a good year. They're not
Yeah,
thinking longer term. Is it because
you
they're
need
just
to
going
look at
that
the
one
year.
month?
Yeah,
Yeah.
as of course as the problem in coaching is we deal in monthly as well. How much? What I say to coaches all the time. Like whenever I ask coach how much do they make, like they'll go, "Oh, I make 10 grand a month." Whereas you go into the big bad world and you're looking at everyone else, and they'll go, "How much do you make?" And they'll give you a yearly salary. I make X amount a year. Weirdly, in coaching, it's month. They do this thing where it's like, "I make this much a month." I'm like, "Cool. Do you actually make 10 grand a month, or did you make two 10 grand months and the rest were X amount?" I'm like,
Mm.
we need to look at this from a more, say, conservative point of view, but generally like a more sensible point of view, because it's all well and good to make all this money, and the industry is so good in terms of how much money you can make. You can make a fortune, but people are just, like I said, it's so easy to get caught up in it. I make 10K a month. Well, you made one 10K month.
Mm.
What did you do the next 3 months? That's what matters more than anything. And it's great that you make this money, but this is where I'm trying to highlight, like, don't upgrade your quality of life until you've got the data of this is actually what I'm going to make a year. This is what I'm projected to make a year. Then you can start to get the new car and all those things, because it is, like you said, you hit a nail on the head there. It's because people see their income in monthlies, which is not a great way to look at things.
No, probably not. It's very short term viewing, but you know what I think is it's probably from. This is not to shit on business mentors. I've got a business mentor. I've actually got Mike on this week to talk, but I think a lot of business mentors they advertise in monthlies, as in they
They
say like
do.
this person did this month. So everyone's looking at it from a monthly perspective, and it becomes a short term goal, which I think is unfortunately quite bad for people's financial acumen. And I've fallen into the trap before where you think, oh, I've had one good month and therefore extrapolate. And you start thinking, what does that look like over a 12-month period? Where one thing we've done is we've scaled that back and gone, right, think about quarterly, like I did in the business world. But for some reason, as soon as you step into your own coaching business, you start looking at less so like a business, like almost in a way. And you got to think on that quarter basis, which has helped me out
It's dopamine, mate.
tremendously.
It's dopamine hits. I see it. It's right there. It's, you know, it's like in the big bad business world. You look at it quarterly, people will gauge it based on the seasonality of the business, the quarterly. How well are we comparing the last quarter to this quarter? How well is it going? In the business, in the fitness industry, because they're one-man bands, you own the business. It's you and you only, generally. And if you've maybe got a couple of coaches that work for you, but it's so easy to get happen. Oh, I'm going to chase this number. Oh, I've hit this number. Oh, this is fantastic. And then you get those dopamine spikes. And I've had that 10K month, which means I can go and do this. And like I said, it's not like you're doing anything wrong because everybody does it. I've done it. It's trying to get on top of it because it's so, like you said, it's so easy to get caught up in that world when people need to understand the fitness industry is seasonal. It's a seasonal industry and it always will be. As long as Christmas is in December and people in UK go on summer holidays in June and July, the fitness industry will always be seasonal. What I mean by that is January to June will always be brilliant. August will always be a terrible month because schools go back, people have went on the summer holiday, people have achieved the goal, people have not got as much money. November, December will always be harder months to get new clients, right? So you need to factor that into your planning, and that's why we'll sit there with a client, we'll look at it in quarters. So like, for example, with yourself, Matt, like when we sit down with you and do your quarterly review, no way on earth will I compare Q4, which for anyone is October, November, December, to Q1. That's terrible because January, February, March is big months for coaching. Why on earth would I sit and go compare the two of them, and actually it wouldn't really give us anything of note. You know what I mean? I want to compare Q1 last year to Q1 this year. I want to compare Q2 and Q2 because that's what matters. Because at the end of the day, like I said, the seasonality of the fitness industry will never change. Never, ever change. So that's what you should be doing in terms of your business. And then if I can look and go, right, Q1, you made X amount, and in Q1 this year, you've grown your business by 70%. We can go, right, cool. Your business is growing pretty well at this point. Cool. You can look to upgrade your life if you want at that point.
I think
Because you see it once again, you see the downside of people get really, really high in the highs, the Q1 and the Q2, brilliant, fantastic. And then I've seen people get seriously low in the drop-offs October, September, and August, September, October. And I'm like, what did you expect? This happens every single year. Like I can go through all our coaches on our books, look for their bookkeeping, and there's a massive trend there, and the trend's always the same. You will see a drop-off at this time of the year, usually. There will be. There's going to be outliers, but there will always be some form of drop-off there. Plan for it. No, like this is why, like, didn't you just go make mad decisions when business is going well? Because you'll regret that when it's not going so well. Because there's one fact in business: it's always going to go do peaks and troughs, right? I've never seen a coaching business that's grown every single month on month, every month. I've always seen drop-offs, increases, drop-offs, and increases. The main thing that matters is it increasing over time?
Yeah. I think that you've hit the nail on the head in terms of just being, for me, the big takeaway from that is being more objective about your business. That it's funny for me, having come from a very corporate background, being in charge of essentially a profit and loss center where I'm in control of the finances for millions, but it's not my money. And all of a sudden, it's very easy to be objective when it's almost monopoly money. But the minute it's yours, you end up being more emotionally driven. You end up making more emotionally charged choices. And that isn't always a good thing. In fact, I would say making emotional decisions with money is one of the worst things you can do, speaking from experience. And for me, since I've just been more objective about my business, been a lot less emotional, financially, I've done a lot better. I've made better decisions, less knee-jerk reactions. I've got money saved up for tax. I've got all these things. I'm putting money away for pension, and it's not sexy. It's not that sexy. But financially, I'm in a better position, which is ultimately what we're not doing this to look good. We're looking at this to have good financial position.
I say this all the time, Matt. We don't all like it's because that's obviously what we do here. We don't offer a sexy service. Like if you're looking for someone to come and big you up and say, that's not us. Our job's to make sure everything's sensible. We're here to save you a fortune in tax, etc. But we're also here to give you a telling off if we see things if you're spending far too much money. Like I'm not your dad, but I'm also here to sit there and go, that's no sensible. You're overspending. You can't do that. You need to do this. But that's what our job is. Like like I said, all those things that coaches are always going to do, our job's to kind of lessen the blow. We'll sit down with someone every single month and go, right, you made this amount, stick this to the side. This is how much you can spend. Be sensible with this. Don't get caught out here. Do that. And we've noticed massive differences in the way people will spend and manage their money now. It's that kind of accountability metric, but it's also just like, because they've got us, like I said, you talk about you dealing with it in your old business and old job, like that's what we do for them. We'll sit down with them and go, no, we're not emotional about this. We're going to take the emotion out of this, and we're going to tell you actual facts. Like, we're going to tell you the actual truth. Like, if you're in a bad position financially, we're not going to sugarcoat it. Like, no, you can't go and spend money on that holiday. Now, obviously, we can't. When I say we can't tell someone to do with their money, it's up to them to do it. But unfortunately, and this is nothing against business mentors, because there's so many good ones out there. They think it's in the sense that they'll just try and keep the client as happy as possible, because that keeps them coming in. Our job's, like, we don't care about that. Like, ultimately, we want to keep you happy, but our job's to tell you the facts and the truth. And sometimes we'll tell you things you don't want to hear, and we'll tell you things that will annoy you, but ultimately that's literally our job. That's exactly why you got us, why people got us, is so that every time I sit down with someone, they're like, I'm an idiot with money, I'm silly, I've done this, I've done that. I'm like, cool. Except that when you take us on board, we're going to tell you some horrible, cold hard facts you might not want to hear sometimes, but that's literally the purpose of why we're here. It's to make sure that you don't make silly financial decisions and that everything's above board. But like you said there, it's worth it, because it literally, once you've got that in your business, you treat it like a business. And you just get to that point where I pay my, it doesn't matter, like for yourself, now you've got yourself in this good habit, mate, where it doesn't matter how well your business does, you get paid X amount, you pay yourself X amount each month. And that's great. If you have a really good month, brilliant, the business has got more money, but you're living off X amount. And that's sensible. That's the best way to do things. And you will thank yourself over time, like, for doing that. You know what I mean?
It's actually quite, I will say, when I first went into online coaching, I did what everyone else does. I upgraded my car. I was on a good wage before, like when I was doing my corporate job, I was on a good wage, but all of a sudden it looks like there's more money in your account, because you got the tax money that you haven't set to one side. You upgrade the car, you upgrade the wardrobe, you upgrade your lifestyle. One year, that first year we were working together, I think you probably had your head in the hands. I went away like 18 or 19 times. Gareth has been crying on our calls, being like, what's this idiot doing? And you have that for the first period of time, and then you realise, yeah, I probably can't sustain this, because I haven't put enough money aside for tax. I'm living like a bit of an idiot. I have no savings, or nowhere near as much as I'd like. I haven't put as much in my pension, and you start thinking, can't do that for forever. So I think
No.
having that clarity has definitely helped for me.
It's-
Speaking of pensions, what's your kind of position on that, being self-employed, like owning a business? Where are we at with that?
In terms of like, what should be doing
Yeah, like
with
should
it?
you be putting it to one side? Should you be doing that? Like
I
I
mean,
see a
it's
lot of
also,
coaches not
you
doing
know,
it.
it's ultimate everyone's own decision what they want to do. Ultimately, does it make sense? 100%, because once again, you have no idea what you're going to be doing at 60, 55 or 60-year-old. And you don't want to get to 60 and have to rely on a state pension. It may not be there, or even if it is there, it's not very, very good at the minute, is it? And the good thing about a pensioner, right? A pension's not sexy, a pension's not interesting, pension's no giving you any short-term rewards. A pension's just spending money what you're not going to see for a long period of time. But once again, usually when something's boring, it works. When you ever hear investors, what's your biggest tip to make money? Every tip they'll give you is a boring, conservative tip. Nothing is big and sexy. It's always long-term, conservative, long-term plays. Same with pensions, right? Pensions tax deductible. What I mean by this is it comes off your company profits, so it reduces your tax liability. You will get taxed further down the line when you retire, but depends what the tax rules are down the line. But it makes so much sense for you to be sticking, especially like I said, the thing with a pension is, it's not about how much you put in, it's about how long you're in and how long you contribute towards it. Because the thing with a pension is about compounding interest. Every year, interest compounds. The total balance compounds based on wherever it's invested. And it makes sense, like, even if you've not even got that much money and you can only contribute £100 a month to it, contribute as much as you can to your pension, because ultimately you'd never ever want, like, it's so easy to get caught out and just not have it there. And we've not got any horror stories just yet, because no one's really reached retirement age in the coaching industry because it's so new. But in 20 years' time, there will be a massive amount of horror stories. There will be, because people just don't have pensions, and it's boring. Like people that I want to go into property, I want to go into stock market, I want to go into crypto. And I'm like, that's brilliant, do that. But pension first, contribute a minimal amount to your pension first, then look at this stuff. But don't forget about this, because the good thing about pension is it doesn't matter how unsmart you are with money, you can't touch that unless you die and your partner gets it, or you retire or get critically ill. So it's safe and secure. Obviously, it depends where you invest it, whether it's a high risk investment, low risk investment, etc. But that by the side, by like it's sensible. It saves you tax, but it's also one of those things that you will thank yourself down the line. I always say, when it comes to financial decisions, making smart ones, if it sounds too good and it sounds too big and sexy, probably shouldn't do it.
Mm. Yeah, I think I've obviously had a pension from my corporate world, and I've always made sure to contribute to that. And that's one thing I'm always, I'm 40 in a couple of years' time. I'm thinking that longer term play. The more money in there, the better. The more financial security, the better. I still invest into other things for sure, but that's definitely something I want to put more emphasis on. And in terms of, we've spoken a lot about security blankets. So we want to put money aside for tax. We want to put money aside for pension. What's your kind of advice on security blankets for coaches? How much, like, should they have a month set away, 3 months set away? How much
As
do you
much
kind
as
of,
possible, but I'd say a minimally £1,000. If anyone's watched Dave Ramsey on YouTube, which you probably have, he's got like his 5-step plan or anything like that. I'd say ideally you'd want to see about 3 months income. Like when I say 3 months income, right, I mean 3 months of your personal bills covered plus your tax safe. So this isn't including tax. This is have your tax to the side safe plus 3 months of living income, right? Now that's the best case scenario. Minimum, what, £1,000? You have £1,000 reserved. Do you never know if the car's going to break, if something's going to go wrong? And my car's in the garage at the minute. That could cost me a fortune, but I've saved for it. Like anything could go wrong. And then building up to 1 month and 2 months, I'd look at 3 months. And then after you've got about 3 months there, then start looking into investments and looking at what you can do with your money at that point. It's like, it depends on the individual and what they're like with money. You know what I mean? But I would say, like, work from £1,000 as your first goal, upwards to 3,000, up to 3 months. After 3 months, then anything after that can be invested. Like, do you need to hold it in something that's maybe not going to accrue a lot of interest and no work a lot for not going to do anything for you? Well, you've got that security of 3 months sitting there, so you know if everyone leaves you tomorrow, you're covered for 3 months. You've got that security blanket. Put it in something that's never got, it doesn't really get you much return. There's not really much interest in it, but that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is not to make money. The purpose is to create peace of mind. After that, go for it. Do what you want to do after that. But I would say building towards that is a sensible play. But first and foremost, minimum everyone should have £1,000 reserve.
I think one thing I found helpful is having this kind of structure, almost like a flow chart in my mind, to go like tax, X amount of money goes into that, X amount goes into pension, X amount goes into my safety pot, and then anything from that is mine. Because I'm leaving extra to that. That's accounting for my corporation tax, personal tax, pension, safety pot, and then me. So I actually put 45% to one side before I touch anything, so that I'm pretty confident in that. But that's taken me a while to get to. And something I found really helpful is almost gamifying it. Like, can I make that number go up every single month? Not just from an earning standpoint, because earnings is one thing, but how much am I actually saving? And you've definitely helped me with that, is make that more enjoyable, like turn it into a big game. I'm actually saving something.
Yeah, of course. And that's the whole point, mate. It's not, I say this doesn't sound so much, you need to be sensible with these things, because ultimately the government's not going to help you, no one's going to help you, and you need to kind of make your own luck, I suppose. And I always say to people, you're going to make better, smarter financial decisions if you've got safety net sitting there, you're contributing towards your future, you've got a plan in place, you've got structure in place. That person's going to make better financial decisions than the person that just wings it. You know what I mean? I know coaches that make 50 grand a year that are in better financial positions than coaches that make 200 grand a year. Trust me, I know coaches in better positions. They make so much less, but they're so much better with money.
I look at it in terms of sport, offense and defense. You can play great offense, earn loads of money, but if your defense is shit, guess what? You could easily lose games. So you've got to do the two, and it's definitely been an eye opener. So that's kind of some of the biggest mistakes. If you were going to go and be a coach again tomorrow, like heaven forbid it all went wrong, financially, what would you do differently to before? Just implement those steps, or would there be anything else you put in?
Say that again. Let me repeat that again.
So if you were to go and be a coach tomorrow, say coach accounts fail for whatever reason, and hopefully, heaven forbid, it doesn't, but say you were to be a coach again tomorrow, what would you
Yep.
do to ensure that you were in a good position financially? Is it just do the things we spoke about, or is there anything else you would do on top?
I would. I mean, ultimately, what I would probably do differently. I mean, ultimately, when I started, I never saved for tax or anything. I did exactly the same as everyone else. Doesn't matter how savvy. Used to work in financial, like I said, I used to work in the what's it, investment world. I worked in risk. Used to work in risk for Scottish Widows, a pension investment company. So I worked in risk, so financial risk. So I should be one of these people that was savvy. But see, like I said, I fell for the trap. Everyone falls for the trap. So I'm not here saying I'm better and almighty. But what I'm trying to say, that what I would probably do different is I would probably start to have a structure in place before I started to make money. So I would start to save for tax actively. I would start to ensure that I had a plan in place to build for my safety net, etc. But I had, so for me, it was I had a job at the time and how I could quit my job. I never had a strategy in place for that. I just got to a point when I was earning X amount and I just made the decision and quit. And it all worked out for me. But I suppose it would just be all the stuff that I've said there and just having a strategy in place. There is no best answer. There is no one best way to do it. But it's just having a structure and a strategy in place. It doesn't mean you need to hire us as accountants or anything like that. I'm not using that, but just ensure that you've not just got a big pot of money. Ensure that you've not got everything running for your personal account. Separating it a business account. Make sure there's a structure in place. Make sure you've got excess money saved. Make sure that you've got more than enough in reserve before you quit your job. Just have a think. Like people and hate, like, you know, I mean, I know so many people like, I don't really care about them. They don't have 5-year plans or 2-year plans. I'm like, fuck those people. Have 5-year plans, 10-year plans. Because trust me, the most wealthiest individuals, smartest individuals in the world have 50-year plans, have estate planning for their kids, 20-year plans, right? As much as it sounds great to say you don't have those plans, you need them. Have a plan. Map out what you want your next year to look at, your next 5 years, your next 10 years. That's how it should be.
Yeah, I think that's something I've definitely. A lot of these things we're speaking about now is stuff that I used to think was, well, I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't have one personally, but professionally I do. Financially I do, and that's been a big change for me. So yeah, I agree with that. So I was going to ask you some questions about some mistakes I see coaches making, and you can maybe give a bit of an answer. So business expenses, primarily clothing. I see people buying all their gym gear, everything. Oh, business expense, that legit or not?
Nope.
Yeah,
Ultimately, the only expense you
there
unless it's got branded clothing. The thing is, there's so many things that I say to people all the time. But like, what can and can't I expense? I'm like, there's no definitive list of what you can and can't expense. Technically, anything can be a business expense. The criteria for a business expense is is this necessary for my business to grow or maintain or sustain my business? Right? And people will be like, well, I require it for the gym because I use it to the gym. Nonsense. You need to show why it is necessary, not because I want it. So when it comes to clothing, it needs to be, if you're buying branded clothing where you're branding it, yeah, that can be expense. But if it's buying Gymshark shit, then sadly no. And you're not going to be able to get that through. So like you need to apply that kind of like I said to people at the time, there's all like people like, can I put my holiday through on what's it as an expense? I'm like, no. But for example, a YouTuber whose main purpose is on YouTube to make content on YouTube, technically, if they are going solely for a purpose of creating content, etc., there's a massive portion of that holiday they can expense. Now, using an online coach probably can't. So once again, anything can be deemed an expense if the kind of if it is deemed necessary for your business. Now, you've got to think logic. It's easy to go, well, I do need supplements for my business because I need to look good in the mirror, right? That's obviously silly. That's not going to work. But you need to apply that principle of, is this required for my business? Is this, and that's kind of like where you kind of get your expense from there, because there's no definitive list. Like there is things that at this minute are not an expense for you, but next week may be an expense for you for a specific purpose.
So what about, obviously I'm sat in my office in my flat, right? This is my business space. Can I expense that?
In terms of what?
As in the mortgage, the energy bills, how would that work?
So there's every year, if you work from home, you're a home worker, HMRC allow part of your something called the use of home office claim. They understand if you work solely from home, part of your bills that you pay for as personally will be used in business hours for your work. There's a small portion of that that can be claimed back each year. There's two ways you can do it. There's a standard rate that you can claim back that's nice and easy. Secondly, there's a calculation that you can do. But essentially, you can, so for example, you can claim a portion of all these things back. And it's a very small portion depending on how much you use and which room do you use it in your house, etc. But there's what you can claim back: your council tax, your electricity, your internet, your mobile phone. Mortgage, you can only claim back the interest portion on your mortgage because ultimately the equity part is seen as an investment in you. But if you rent, for example, you can claim back a portion of that. But it's not that you can claim back on it all. It's a calculation that's done. I wouldn't advise anyone do that themselves. If you're just doing your tax on yourself, use the standard allowance you can get. If you're going to use the actual calculation, get an accountant to do the proper calculation for it. And yeah, you will usually be able to claim a bit more back from doing the calculation method. But once again, don't do it yourself, but you can. Yeah, there's a portion of it can be claimed back each year.
And the final question I had, which I see so many people talking about, is business cars. So let's say tomorrow I was like, right, Gareth, I'm going to go and buy myself a Tesla. It's an electric car. I can claim all of that back on the business, right?
Well, it depends. Once again, it needs to. I mean, ultimately, the thing is that company cars are all dealt. Like, depends on. So at this minute, the only real kind of advantage to company cars is electric cars these days, unless it's a commercial vehicle, so like vans, etc. But no coach should really have a commercial vehicle because they don't require it. They're online. But when it comes to it, the whole point is what's called benefit in kind. So if anyone that buys a business car, company car, massive portion of that use is personal. Let's be honest, you don't really travel much for work. So for everybody, you will have to pay a tax which is called BIC, benefit in kind, on that. This is a percentage of your personal use of that vehicle. Now, the government, due to the net zero policies and the green policy, etc., are trying to encourage people to buy electric cars and use electric cars. As such, is the percentage of benefit in kind rate for petrol and diesel cars is very, very high, which means generally anyone that's going to get a car for their business, it's petrol and diesel, just buy it personally. It saves you more money. It's been cost you more in tax and benefit in kind tax. Electrics, however, are at a 2% benefit in kind rate. Brand new electric cars are at 2%, which means you pay 2% of the value in your car in personal tax, depending on your tax rate. So those are advantageous. Couple of caveats to that. You need to get you can't just go and get a car personally, electric car personally, and stick it for the business. You need to go through a proper business channel. So it needs to be a proper business lease or a proper business purchase. It needs to go through the business department of the garage that you're buying from. You can essentially get a car for your business, and obviously, if it is an electric car, you can expense the payments, expense the insurance on it. You'll pay a small amount of personal tax and benefit in kind, depending on whether it's a lease or it's a HP or PCP purchase. Depends on how the car is dealt with. If it's a lease, you just expense the payments. If it's PCP or HP, it goes in the company's balance sheet. It's a capital allowance claim. But in essence, yes. However, once again, I'll always say you'll only save the tax rate, right? So for example, corporation tax at 19%. If you spend £1,000 a month on a car, you're saving £190 in your tax bill. You're still spending £810 in your business account. So it doesn't make sense for someone that's currently got a £350 a month car payment to go and get a £1,000 car payment. Probably not, because ultimately it's costing you £350 a month for your car personally at the minute. And yeah, you have to go through some tax channels to get that £350 out. But you've just went and got a £1,000 a month car. You're still costing you 810 quid a month in your business to pay for that. Are you better off? Probably no. However, if you're replacing a £500 a car personal payment for a £500 a month electric car, then you're saving a fortune. Brilliant. You're getting a great saving at that. So, like I said, can you do it? Of course you can. There's great options there. Like I would say, you need to have at least a year's worth of accounts. You need to make sure you meet the affordability calculation for these lenders. It's there, but put some. I see so many people. I'm going to get a Porsche Taycan. It's like they've got a Vauxhall Vectra at the minute, and they make £4,000 a month, and they want to get £1,000 a month Porsche Taycan. I'm like, just spend 25% of your income on that. I know it's a tax saving, but you're only saving your savings no worth how much you're paying. I always say this: when it comes to an expense, people are like, remember, business expenses are great, but don't get them for the sake of it. You only save the tax rate. So at 19%, for every pound you spend in business, you're only writing 19p of your tax bill. You're still losing 81p at your bank account. So if you're going to spend £1,000 on an expense that you don't need, people, oh, I'm going to spend £1,000 to save some tax. Well, do you need that thing? Well, no, really, I don't really need it. Well, cool. Just pay the extra £190 tax and keep £810 in your pocket. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. When you put it like that, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? The reason I asked that last one is I'm looking for a new car at the moment. I'm thinking, do I get electric, and we'll see. But
like I said, if it's replacing, then yeah, it makes total sense. I think that's a great option there. Such a great option. If it's replacing payment for payment, or it's there's no massive difference, or your earning potentials your earnings have went up dramatically, like, makes so much sense. It does. It's just there's got to be more logic applied than just I'm going to go get this Porsche Taycan, and no factor in the fact that it's still £1,000 a month coming in your bank account.
I basically heard buy the Porsche Taycan. That's what I'm taking away from that bit. There is buy the Porsche. Thanks,
I would love one, but yeah. I'm still on an electric car at market yet. I'm still not really.
I'm not sure.
Not really interested just yet, but I'm sure I will be at some point.
I'll have a little look. And Christian's one's very, very nice, and it's tempting. It's like a little spaceship, that thing. So I keep getting dragged from pillar to post. So you can maybe put me in my place, Gareth. I think that's sort of the main questions I wanted to cover, mate. To be honest with you, I know you've got to shoot off in a minute. So I said the real thing that I wanted coaches to kind of get from this episode was understand the biggest mistakes people make, and we've gone over that. And I think the biggest one is just live within your means for a bit, slow it down, be a bit more objective about your business, and have that visibility of where that money is going. Have a bit of a process, a bit of a systematic thing, rather than going, this money's in my account. Because say you do your first 10 grand month, that money isn't yours. You've got personal tax, you've got self-assessment tax, you've got corporation tax, you've got to pay maybe a pension, you've got expenses. There's a lot of things there which it isn't all yours. So you can't just spend 10 grand like you made 10 grand. There's maybe set yourself a limit, like we've obviously spoken about there. That's a big one. And just look at the data. Speak, like, I highly rate you guys. And I would say anyone listening, if you haven't got coach accounts, at least have a conversation with the guys, because it is definitely, I pay a couple £1,000s a year to have you guys my accountant, which sounds a lot. The amount of money you saved me, but also not just the tax saving itself, but the financial, I guess, visibility and knowledge that I've gained allows me to save so much more. And I found that invaluable. And I am blowing smoke at you, but at the moment, but for good reason. I've never been in a better financial position than I am right now because of your business. So I think as an online coach, it is a no-brainer to have a good accountant, one that understands the business and one that can work with you. And I actually look forward to our monthly calls as well.
Yes, loads of people do. If I can give anyone the best advice, like if I can give everyone like a bit of take-home advice, is do this. Figure how much you need to live each month. Let's say that's £2,000 a month to pay your bills, food, live your life, right? For 6 months, do this, right? You need £2,000 a month to live, so you're getting 24 grand a year. I don't care if you do 6 grand months, 8 grand months, 10 grand months, 4 grand months, 20 grand months. Live off your 2K. Be strict with it, right? Install a discipline, be strict with it, stick with it. After a period of time, let's say you've not got us and you're not got coach accounts and you're doing it yourself, which is fine. Look back at the 6 months. Look how well the business is growing. If it's growing really well, give yourself a pay rise, right? I'm going to get 3 grand a month now, 4 grand a month, whatever it may be. But stick with it, be strict with it. That will install a discipline that in your business that will help grow not just the financials, but everything about your business. Because growing your business is about being disciplined, right? It's about posting every day, being disciplined to that. Apply that same the discipline that you apply to training all the time and sticking to your food. Apply that to your finances. Find how much you need to live. Stick to that. Pay yourself that. The first of the month, send yourself 3 grand. I don't care if you make 20 grand last month, you're living off 3, right? You will thank yourself down the line. And like I said, over time, you'll be able to go, right, cool, my 3 grand, I'm going to pay myself 5 grand a month. And now 6 grand a month. But make sure you merit it. Trust me, by doing that, you will never, ever, ever, ever get yourself in financial difficulty.
Love that. So, mate, where can people find you?
So people can see us on Instagram at Coach Accounts on Instagrams, where you can get us. We have a website as well, www.coachaccounts.com. But Predominantly easy way to get in touch is just drop us a message on Instagram, or email us at mail@coachcounts.com, and you can just book in a call with us. And like I said, we offer everyone the opportunity to just book in a free call with us. And like I said, not everybody needs us or needs to come to us, but if you want to have a conversation, book in, and we'll sit down with you. We'll tell you if you need us or not. Like the many times I've sit down with someone and say, you're not ready for an accountant just yet. If you're earning £1,500 a month, don't sign up to us. Like, we're not at that point. Wait till your business grows a bit, but we'll at least sit down in an initial stage and kind of tell you where you're at. So you can get us on Instagram. It's probably the easiest way to reach out to us.
Like I say, highly recommend. Probably there's two non-negotiable elements within my business. I'm a business mentor, my accountant. There's two non-negotiables, and that they are certainly one of the two. So, thanks for coming on. Always good to see you, and I hope everyone watching this episode got a lot from it.
Top man, thank you very much for having me. And any questions, guys, just reach out to us on Instagram.
Spot on. Well, I'll see everyone in the next episode. Thank you.